When Solomon was born, he had no pupils. Every time he went out, his mother would tie him with a rope. The rope was just long enough to reach from their house to the edge of the woods, and a dark figure often appeared in the woods across the way. Even though Solomon was born disabled, his mother forced him to go hunting every day. The jars hanging on the trees were markers. Under the jars were animal traps. When he caught prey, his mother would make him keep half for himself and throw the other half into the woods. One day, Solomon went to check the traps like usual, but his hand touched a rusty iron chain.
Solomon, I told you not to go too far. What are you doing?
His mother's appearance startled him. She didn't explain anything about the chain, but quickly rushed him back home. That night, after putting Solomon to sleep, she opened the door and walked out. Her figure gradually faded into the darkness, and the end of that darkness was exactly the woods. 10 years passed. Solomon still hunted according to his mother's teachings, but his mother had completely vanished from his world. All that remained with him was a cassette tape she left behind, and an old goat. In the tape, his mother emphasized 3 survival rules. First, always throw half of every catch into the woods. Second, when you're in despair, sing the song she taught him. Third, and most importantly, whenever Solomon went out, he had to tie the rope no matter what. Although he didn't know why, he still followed her instructions. But one day, a sound came from the woods, breaking his quiet life. He slowly moved toward the sound, but the rope's limit stopped him from going further. Sometimes he wondered why his mother had left him here, and why the rope only reached the edge of the woods. These questions kept Solomon awake at night. Then he heard a goat bleeding from the woods. Solomon quickly put on the rope and fumbled his way toward the sound, but the rope pulled him back again. He bent down, reached out his hand, and touched a goat's head, and it was bloody. Just as Solomon was puzzled, suddenly something dragged the goat away. The weather turned cold. Solomon's supplies were running low. The traps outside hadn't caught anything either. Just as he was worrying about food, a gunshot rang out nearby. He fumbled toward the sound and found a deer lying on the ground. Then a man walked up from behind. Hearing a stranger, Solomon quickly pulled out his knife to defend himself. When Solomon came to, the man quickly apologized. He had mistaken Solomon for stealing his prey. Now he realized he was wrong. He didn't expect Solomon to be just a kid, and blind too. He offered the venison to make up for it. It was getting dark, and Ben urgently needed a place to crash, so he followed Solomon back to his house. Late at night, while they were asleep, a roar came from the woods again. The noise woke them both up. Ben grabbed his shotgun and asked Solomon what that was, but Solomon just shook his head. So Ben decided to go into the woods alone to check it out. Solomon tried hard to stop him, but it didn't work. Now Solomon looked nervous, because ever since he was born, his mother had strictly forbidden him from entering the opposite woods. Ben walked into the woods by himself. Once inside, he soon found a dead black bear and deep claw marks on the trees. He kept moving forward with his gun raised. Then he spotted a dark figure standing under a tree not far away. Suddenly, that figure roared and charged at him. Ben freaked out and ran for his life. Only after he got out of the woods did the figure stop chasing him. Still shaken, Ben returned home and told Solomon about the weird encounter. But Solomon just covered himself with his blanket. Obviously, he didn't want to answer Ben's questions. The next day, Solomon asked Ben for a deer leg and carried it to the edge of the woods. When the rope ran out, he threw the leg into the woods. Ben was confused. Solomon told Ben about his mother's instructions.
The hell is that? Witchcraft?
Ben thought Solomon was feeding some wild animals, which was why the roaring came at night. He invited Solomon to go into the woods together to find out. Solomon, who had never been in the woods, was curious too, so he agreed. Since the rope only reached the edge, Ben lengthened it for him. Then they went deep into the woods. Solomon also let his guard down around Ben. But just then, something mysterious dragged Solomon down the slope. Ben rushed over and pulled him up. They didn't dare stay long. They hurried back to the house. The creepy incident freaked Solomon out. He curled up on the sofa in fear. Ben found a notebook on the shelf. It was left by Solomon's mother. The notebook recorded Solomon's childhood life. Ben read the contents aloud for Solomon. But soon, they came across a strange drawing. Ben didn't pay much attention and turned to the next page. But on that page, Ben only read one sentence before stopping. Solomon's mother wrote in the diary that his father was a dangerous being. And another sentence said, "One tied with rope, one tied with chain." Ben seemed to understand something. Solomon asked why he stopped reading, but Ben said the rest of the notebook was blank. After Solomon fell asleep, Ben took the animal traps, packed his gear, and headed back to the woods. He came to a slope, under which was a crude tree shelter. He looked around, then set the trap on the ground. Meanwhile, Solomon woke up and called for Ben, but got no reply. Then a gunshot rang out from the woods. Solomon quickly put on the rope and walked into the woods. He called out for Ben as he went. As he walked, his foot bumped into Ben's gear. Solomon knew Ben was nearby, but the rope had reached its limit. To go further, he had to untie it. So Solomon untied the rope for the first time and slowly climbed down the steep slope. Since he couldn't see, he had to crawl and feel his way. Solomon felt blood on his hands. He shook Ben hard to wake him, but Ben didn't respond at all. Solomon completely lost it. Suddenly, a noise came from ahead. Solomon backed away nervously. A wild man appeared right in front of him. He charged at Solomon like crazy. Luckily, the trap Ben had set caught the wild man. He struggled forward desperately, and the chain was about to snap. Then Solomon remembered his mother's words. When in despair, sing the song she taught him. So he started humming. Strangely, the wild man stopped struggling and hummed along with Solomon. Solomon was totally stunned. The wild man was actually his mother. Solomon moved closer carefully. His mother suddenly rushed over and hugged him tightly. Solomon knew she had turned into a monster, so he had no choice but to kill her. Solomon sat under a tree, deep in thought. Then the crows in the tree cawed wildly. As they flew away, Solomon's eyes changed.